All right, I want to talk about something that's been like in my mind for the past couple really years, but it's been coming up as a little bit more of a topic top of mind the past couple of months, and that's I think art has an AI problem. And yes, I see your comment already. AI might have an art problem too. That's up for debate. But ultimately, there's this. It feels like just something bubbling up in society that this aspect of AI is going to replace art. I'm not so sure about that. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like in the future, but I can tell you what is going to, or what I think is going to happen as things develop. So I've got a whole thing here. And yes, I do think art has an AI problem. And it's come so far though, because like in 2022, like I made this. Well, somebody made this in 2022. Y'all remember Dolly Mini? This came out. It was Crayon.ai or Crayon AI, whatever. And it was a lot of fun to be able to just put in like a single prompt and get something out of it. But you can clearly tell like all of this is fake. Not a single image looks real. Like it's not photography in any sense of the word. So like you look at this, and so the prompt there, it says long exposure photograph of a house on fire with holy smoke. And I'll pause here because yes, I agree. I have another video I think I'll be doing next week about how all these different creative companies are trying to replace the artists that they built their platforms on. So that's exciting. It's been really interesting working on that. But regardless, topic at hand. So I generated this just 3-4 days ago. It's the same prompt. Long exposure photograph of a house on fire with holy smoke. Oh, thank you. Very nice. Yeah, this is just to answer your first question. I haven't streamed in a long time, so I'm going to do streams like this and then probably some building streams as well. So we'll see what happens here. But that's why you're probably one of two people here now, because I have no momentum on this part of the platform. But regardless, here we have this in 2026. And I just did this same prompt, long exposure photograph of a house on fire with holy smoke. And yes, you can still tell there's some fake things here. The Gemini, I didn't get rid of the Gemini watermark. This little corner of the house doesn't look quite right, but regardless, it's night and day different between these images over here and then this. Like it looks long exposure. There's the smoke is rising up in kind of like a smooth, milky, kind of creamy kind of way. The sky looks realistic. I'm seeing some other things here. There's some lens flare there that doesn't really fit in. But like the sky makes sense. The road makes sense. You can see the rundown and the reflection here of the holy smoke. Like this is just completely different. And it's been 4 years. 4 years of technology, less than 4 years of technology. This was September 2022. This is May of 2026. So it's come very far. But none of this could have been possible, even from Dolly Mini, without the training that has come from sources, from artists from all over that have trained these models, mostly against their will. We'll get into that, I think, in this one. We'll talk about it. This is the stream that I mentioned. Okay, so I lied a little bit. I said next stream we'll talk about that. This is the stream that we're actually talking about the artists being replaced. It makes sense because art has an AI problem. I promise I'm paying attention. Because this is the actual point here, the platforms that are built on human creativity are betraying their own supply chain. And we'll go into greater detail than this one statement allows, but this is kind of what we're seeing now. We'll talk about Spotify and how Spotify is using AI to allow users to create covers. That's an issue. We have stock photos. I don't know if we'll talk about this today, but the stock photo sites are using their huge catalogs of stock photos to train their AI to create new AI images. But eventually, that AI is just going to be trained on synthetic data. Like it's just going to continue training on that fake AI image and create more fake AI images. And eventually, the artists, the artists are the ones who lose here. So they're the ones who are going to experience the greatest loss until, and we'll talk about this later, they run out. So they're going to go other places. They're going to find ways to make their money because humans need to make money, robots don't. But Spotify is the primary example here because Spotify spent 3 weeks proving there's a problem with trust on their platform, and then they just went and made it worse. And we'll talk about that. So the verified by Spotify badges came out around April 30th. Here's the sources from TechCrunch, but Spotify introduces verified artist badges to help distinguish humans from AI. Clearly there's an issue when the creator of this music streaming platform needs to be able to have a way to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And that's because we as humans typically, we can't really tell with how fast AI is developing and with how fast the AI tells are disappearing. It becomes more and more difficult to tell what's actually human made versus what's AI made. And so there are actually I think there's some good from this. You have to meet certain criteria. You can't just apply. That you want to see an identifiable artist presence. So it's not I think there was but at one of the tennis tournaments, I don't watch tennis, so I don't know it, but there was a fake influencer that had a massive Instagram following by the end of it. You have to have more than just an Instagram profile from 6 days ago. But they also want to see on and off platform. So that's concert dates, so that's a little bit more verifiable. Robot can't have a concert. If you have merch available, so things that would actually tell you that a human is behind this song, including the linked social accounts on their artist profile. So I think there's a lot of good here in what Spotify was trying to do to verify humans on their platform. Profiles that primarily represent AI-generated music or AI persona artists are not eligible for verification. I think all of that is very good. Artists must have consistent listener activity and engagement over time. So again, you can't just have an account that's 6 days old, racking up millions of streams, unless you're maybe Ed Sheeran just decided to leave Spotify and come back and make a new account. He would probably get verified pretty quickly, but he has agents to take care of that. I don't. I saw a tweet the other day. This is an aside. It said, all software engineers are failed musicians. I feel that. I was called out in that. Let me take a look at this real quick. Use the growth model. Yeah, we'll talk about copyright laws here in a second because the US right now says that AI-generated music, AI-generated anything is not copyrightable. That is still technically in court, but that's the current stance. And the case of Disney, which is not in here, but there's a similar case where if you can't beat it, license it. That's the approach that I think Disney took for when Sora came out with OpenAI. But that's an aside there. All right, so Spotify is focusing on artist profiles that people are actively seeking out over a sustained period of time. You can't just show up and get streams and get what you need. You won't get the badge right away, rather than those that are experiencing one-time spikes in engagement, which would indicate bots. So all of that's good. And Spotify comes out with a statement: we've designed this new verification program thoughtfully with listeners and artists in mind, and will continue to evolve this program over time. Our goal is to make it easier for you to trust, that's a key word here, trust and understand the human artistry behind the music you listen to on Spotify. I want to circle human. I believe that the human is really central here. There is no AI art without the human. I think we all know that. So the human artistry behind the music you listen to on Spotify and develop long-term, meaningful connections. So trust, human, meaningful connections, artists, love here. Artists and music that you love. All of this is very human-centric. All of this feels so good. 3 weeks later, Spotify then signs a deal with Universal Music Group, one of the largest recording labels, I think in the world, but definitely in the United States, to allow users to generate AI covers and remixes. So they talk about all of this trust in human artistry and meaningful connections, and then 3 weeks later say, you know what? Let's just flood our platform with all AI music stuff and just let our users take these real people's music and make covers that they don't actually perform. They have some AI algorithm perform it for them. That makes no sense to me. Like, this headline just blows my mind a little bit. Spotify and Universal Music Group announced landmark licensing agreements for fan-made covers and remixes. Fan-made covers and remixes, AI generated. Something is not aligning here. So let's go back. I clearly did not plan to go back. But if we look at this image, I can say that I typed in a prompt and came up with this image. I did not take this photograph. I did not create this image. If I go in to Spotify with my new paid account and type in, I want a cover of, I mentioned Ed Sheeran earlier. Of course, I'm going to blank on every song title now. Small Bump. I say I want to do a Small Bump cover of Ed Sheeran. That's a throwback. Maybe you know that one. But if I said that and posted it, that's not my cover. I didn't perform anything. I typed in some keywords and got a cover. But now I'm allowed to publish that on Spotify in their groundbreaking tool. Groundbreaking. I'm still getting used to this. So we have this groundbreaking tool from Spotify that will allow users, powered by generative AI, to use that technology to open up additional revenue streams and new ways to drive discovery. Let me tell you that my Spotify account is not getting people generating AI covers of my music. That's not going to help my discovery. The people in Universal Music Group, yeah, maybe, but they have other ways to drive discovery. AI-generated technology probably ain't it. So it introduces a creation model where artists and songwriters can directly share in the value generated through AI-driven licensed, I mentioned that earlier, covers and remixes on the Spotify platform. So now they go from human and connecting with other humans and having a way to create those meaningful connections with your favorite artists to let's just put it into algorithmic AI LLM stuff. So it's a hard leap going from that, like, yes, let's build this trust to let's just rip that trust right out. And of course, it's a paid add-on. Like, it's money for Spotify. So yes, they get additional money. Universal Music Group gets some money. And artists, yes, they do get some source of income for artists and songwriters on top of what they already earn on Spotify. So I don't think I talk about this later, so I'm going to talk about it now. No, I do talk about it later. We'll come back to it. All right, so it's paid. You have to pay Spotify extra. I'm sure there's some agreement between Spotify and Universal Music Group, and then Universal Music Group will then distribute that income to its artists. So they come out with this quote. Alex Nordstrom, the co-CEO of Spotify, comes out saying solving hard problems for music is what Spotify does. Don't really know what the problem here is other than like AI is flooding the system. So apparently, fan-made covers and remixes are the next generation of how to solve hard problems for music in Spotify. No idea why, but what we're building is grounded in consent. Okay, good. Credit for the artist and compensation for the artist and songwriters that take part. All of that sounds wonderful. Through each technological transformation, we have worked together with Sir Lucian from Universal Music Group and his team to evolve the music ecosystem into a richer, more beneficial experience for fans, and a more rewarding outcome for artists and songwriters. If you can't beat it, license it. That's kind of how this is reading to me. But I, as a fan of music, like, I don't want to listen to an AI cover of an artist that I enjoy. At that point, I want to listen to the artist. Like, okay, so I do think there is some creativity that comes from like being able to iterate with AI. Like, there are some covers that are just never going to be made, like a reggae cover of a rap song that may not ever happen, or a gospel cover of a heavy metal song. Like, those things just seem like those are not going to be created by the original artist. So there are some weird creative things you can do there with music, but it's still never going to be human created. And the human creation seems to be what the hard problem that Spotify is talking about earlier, where we need that verification program that is so thoughtfully created with listeners in mind. But here we end up with more just AI pushed out into the system. And so Spotify, with Spotify specifically, we have to understand that time is finite. Like, there's a limited amount of time that we are able to spend listening to music. We can only listen to one song at a time effectively. So any time spent listening to someone else's bad remix made by AI is time not spent listening to a human artist. And that becomes a problem because earnings are pooled and then distributed. So the larger pool of songs and songs that have received streams, the less real artists get paid per earned stream. Because if there's 1 million streams to AI songs, again, you can only listen to one song effectively at a time. That's now 1 million streams that did not go to an actual artist. Now, of course, that's like 3 pennies, but at the end of the day, that's still money not going to the artists. So the badges were needed to identify real music, but now AI covers accelerates the erosion of the trust that Spotify was trying to fix. This is just so backwards to me, because Spotify in April says trust is so important, and then Spotify in May says money bags. Yes, bring in the money. We need more of that good money. So here we've got our money bags Spotify. Their logo is green for a reason, I guess. And then that just leaves a big question mark up here. Is trust really that important to these platforms? Because now we're experiencing the flood. It's the flood of all of the AI-generated crud that doesn't really add any value. I'm going to pause here for a quick aside because I do think AI brings value to society. I use AI, that's why I feel like I can speak to this a little bit more handsy. But when it comes down to it, I'm not using AI to try and generate and sell art, generate and sell music, generate and sell photography. Like, I'm not going to go sell that house photo of, like, it looks cool. The composition looks really good. I didn't make it. And I want, how do I want to say this? If I'm going to put something out into the world, I want to have made it. So there's already a flood of synthetic and otherwise AI-generated art out there. You've seen it, you've heard it. There are so many streams on YouTube that are like lo-fi music. A lot of them are AI-generated. So that's already a problem. Some have AI-generated video playing in the background. There are AI-generated shorts and fully automated channels on YouTube. Like, all of it, like, it's bad. Like, there's just so much of it. And there's only so much that platforms can do. I understand that. But now we're seeing, with Google specifically, there seems to be a disconnect between the product team who keeps pushing out all this AI stuff and then the team that's like actually verifying that content is good, whatever that's called, whatever that team is. They don't seem to be communicating. So product is pushing out all these AI features, and then the compliance team is shutting down a lot of AI channels. Regardless, that's the flood. We have a ton of synthetic and otherwise AI-generated art out there, and we can see that even with Spotify. Spotify is the prime example for this video, but Spotify removes 75 million spammy tracks in the previous 12 months leading up to September 2025. So their quarter one 2026 catalog had about 250 million songs, which means that they removed about a third. I think I did that math wrong, but they removed a good chunk of their catalog and dubbed it spam or AI-enabled, AI-generated. Deezer, another music platform, receives over 50,000 fully AI generated songs per day. I saw this article, must have been a couple months ago at this point. I imagine that this has increased as access to stronger and more powerful AI models continues to increase. Amazon had to limit the amount of books that one could upload to 3 per day. Who is writing and or uploading 3 books per day other than AI bots? They had a guide, poisonous mushroom guide, that was published, even with all these checks, that had bad information in it. And that bad information, for poisonous mushrooms, bad information is always going to be catastrophic. And people are already trying to play the system. A good example of this is Michael Smith, who was convicted of music streaming fraud. It is a crime. I don't think that was the crime that he was actually convicted for. I think it was wire transfer fraud or something like that. But regardless, it comes down to that. North Carolina man pleads guilty to music streaming fraud aided by artificial intelligence. This comes from the U.S. Attorney's Office, so I promise it's real. So let's read. Smith created thousands of accounts. Thousands of accounts on the streaming platforms. And these bots that are going to be mentioned will be bot accounts. So this is streaming platforms like Spotify. I didn't make it very far. I'm sorry, guys. Made thousands of accounts on the streaming platforms like Spotify, probably Apple Music and YouTube Music, that he could then use to stream songs. He then used software to cause bot accounts to continuously stream songs that he owned. It gets a little more complicated. Smith spread his automated streams across thousands of songs to avoid anomalous streaming, so no single song got a huge spike at any one given time. So each individual song got a reasonable amount of streams over time, which would likely cause the streaming platforms to discover his scheme. So you don't want those spikes, because spikes mean, pay attention to this. Any kind of an anomaly in statistics is always going to draw the eyes of the researchers, of the teams who are responsible for ensuring the quality of their product. So, to obtain the necessary number of songs for his scheme to succeed, Smith turned to artificial intelligence, surprise, which he used to create hundreds of thousands of AI-generated songs for which he could manipulate the streams. So let's take a look at this number here real quick. So he created hundreds of thousands of AI-generated songs and submitted them to all of these different streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and then across thousands of accounts on those streaming platforms, he streamed those songs and those songs that he owned. So he would receive royalties for each song that was played. And it was in this way that he manipulated the streams. So his hundreds of thousands of AI-generated songs were streamed by his bot accounts billions of times. Billions with a B, billions. That's a lot of times. Which allowed him to fraudulently obtain more than $8 million in royalties. That did not go to other artists, and he did actually have to forfeit, so Spotify or whoever got that money back. I think the real crime here is that we have 1 billion streams. The real crime is my handwriting. So 1,000,000,000. Sorry, 100,000 million billion. So 1 billion. And only 8 million in revenue from 1 billion streams. So that's already kind of a mismatch there. That's pretty bad. Pretty bad conversion ratio on money. Michael Smith generated thousands of fake songs using artificial intelligence and then streamed those fake songs billions of times. Although the songs and listeners were fake, the millions of dollars Smith stole was real. Now, this is an opinion, so it's a little bit more like flowery language. Millions of dollars in royalties that Smith diverted from real, this is true, I believe this, real deserving artists and right holders. Smith's brazen scheme is over as he stands convicted of a federal crime for his AI-assisted fraud. Now, this is a big thing to be concerned about in the art world in general. So every AI song that enters the pool and is streamed is a version of that same theft from deserving artists. And I believe that's true also for AI-enabled covers and remixes that Spotify is now enabling. And the problem is, no one can tell what's real anymore. visual art is probably the easiest way to see this. AI generated An AI generated image won a contest in 2022. AI use wasn't hidden, so the person who did this actually disclosed that they were using AI. And the judges didn't really understand what the issue was. They didn't see the distinction. They didn't understand that a human did not make what was being presented. And then in 2023, a photography contest gave a prize to an AI generated photograph. Again, AI use was disclosed and the person refused the prize. So that much is good. I don't think they did in the 2022 version. But the photographer was claiming that it was a test to show that competitions weren't ready for the AI flood to come. Seems like that's true, but we can tell. Like, can't we tell? Well, here's Miles Astray. He submits a real photo to the AI category of a contest. He wins third place. It's a bronze medal for his image, and then is disqualified. So this headline here, a photographer wins a top prize in an AI competition for his non-AI image. He was disqualified after his image was revealed as the real thing. Let's take a look at it. But before that would have been such a smooth transition. So here we see a real photograph that was entered into the category of a photo contest for images generated by artificial intelligence, won a jury award. This is multiple professionals looking at the same image saying, yep, that's AI generated, but it was actually real. But the photographer was disqualified after the photographer disclosed that the image was real. No one else could tell. This professional panel of people who know the difference between AI and real things couldn't even tell that this image that we're going to look at in a second was real. So the 38-year-old photographer who had entered the photo snuck the image of a seemingly headless flamingo standing in a liminal beachscape into the 1839 awards competition. The new contest was judged by members of the New York Times. These are not like nobodies, people. The New York Times, Getty Images, I don't know what this is, Fiden Press, and then this French word, Christie's and Maddox Gallery. Yes. So these are not nobodies. These are people who would be known in the art world or in the photography world, or at least have some exposure to it. But he was awarded the bronze in the AI category anyway, as well as the People's Choice Award. So now, like, we're at this competition. These 5 or 6 judges are looking at this piece of photography, and they're like, yep, that's AI generated. Like, that's cool. Yeah, I really like that image. Let's give it third place. And then the People's Choice, so the people who are attending this competition, chose it as the winning fake photograph. The image, titled Flamingon, his win and subsequent disqualification appeared to be among the first high-profile instances in which a photographer has challenged fears of the effects of AI on creatives and come out on top. So this is kind of an aside a little bit, but humans are just incredible, in my opinion. So I'm thinking about something else that happened. So it's not just AI, like creatives coming out on top of AI. Like, that's important. I think that's like, it's important for us to have examples of this where human creativity trumps AI creativity. But another way that I can see this is the Enhanced Games just happened. They expected several world records to be broken at these like Roid Rage events, and only one was broken by a fraction of a tenth of a second, and none others were. And there were a couple of winners in the games that were not physically enhanced. They were not taking the performance enhancing drugs. So it's just incredible, to me, that the human by themselves is enough. Anyway, so here's the image. This is what I wanted to actually look at. And yeah, this looks AI generated. Like, there's clearly, like, this is a beach. I can see that it's a beach, but it looks like it's kind of like a watercolor. It's a little blurry. Like, these lines here aren't quite consistent with what I would expect to see at a beach. There's no real detail in the sand. There's a little bit over here on the edge. And like, yeah, this looks like, are there holes in the flamingo's feet? How did sand get there? Like, was it kicking its feet? And of course, like, where's its head? Like, flamingo head goes like this, right? Like, where's the flamingo head? Well, the flamingo's head is down here. Regardless, this doesn't look like it should be real, yet it is. And that's like, we look at this and we can very quickly at a glance see, like, yeah, clearly that's AI generated. Like, flamingos don't look like that. The beach doesn't look like that. There's always a little bit more detail. Like, the sand is too flat. Like, that's clearly AI generated. Yet we see this real image and assign an AI label to it and move on. But it's not AI. And I think this is true for a lot of the things that we see in art today, specifically in writing. I don't know if you guys are ever on LinkedIn, but if you go on LinkedIn and you see the people, there is a lot of AI writing on LinkedIn, don't get me wrong. But there's always the people who say, here are the 11 AI tells that you can always tell if someone is using AI to write something. And really, they just want to like pump up their chest and feel a little bit better. Like, oh, I can always tell when somebody's writing with AI. They almost never can. And here's the proof. Like, this is the most visual proof that I can give that no one can really tell what's AI and what's not. And so, like, even the knees look wrong. Like, is this even a flamingo? Like, where'd the flamingo? So professional judges can't tell what's real or fake in either direction. Where's my hope in that? So AI generation has caused trust issues in art. Been the highlight of this whole thing. Spotify comes out with verified badges to help solidify that trust, and then eventually takes away that trust by allowing AI covers. Makes no sense. Quick break. So yes, we have all these trust issues in art now because of AI and AI-generated art. So what are the major institutions doing about it? Well, the Oscars, they try to remain neutral in 2025 and then come back a little bit more strict in 2026. I wouldn't say that they outright ban it, but this is the 2025 article here. In the rules for film eligibility, the following language regarding generative artificial intelligence has been introduced as recommended by the Academy's Science and Technology Council. I didn't know they had one. With regard to generative artificial intelligence and other digital tools used in the making of the film, the tools neither help nor harm the chances of achieving a nomination. So here it's saying, across the board, no matter how you use AI, it doesn't hurt your chances or help your chances in receiving a nomination. The Academy in each branch will judge the achievement, taking into account the degree to which a human, so that was still there, a human was at the heart of the creative authorship, so not necessarily the performance or even in the technical writing of something, when choosing which movie to award. So all of that seems, that is pretty neutral. Like, you can use AI and that's all good. So later on, it comes back in 2026 with the Academy further addressed generative AI more broadly, reserving the right to request additional information. So request additional information about the nature of its use and the extent of, so here the language changes a little bit, the extent of human authorship. So back here, it's asking to account for the degree to which a human was at the heart, so the beginning stages of the ideation side of things, the genesis of the idea. And then here, it's the extent of the actual authorship on any submitted film. In the writing categories, the rules now formally codify that screenplays must be human authored to qualify. So that is very strict. It's not a ban, but it is very strict. The organization emphasized that while its rules continue to evolve alongside technology, its commitment to human artistry, remains unchanged. So here the Oscars seem to be kind of moving in the right direction, but whether or not they can tell what's AI generated is going to be really determined by if people are saying that they are actually AI using AI generation tools. And then we have Barnes and Noble, who just got into the news recently, and they can't seem to decide which way they want to go. So last week, I guess, the CEO of Barnes and Noble, who apparently has done quite a bit of good work for the franchise, said, I didn't watch the clip, but I have it here in writing. I have actually no problem selling any book as long as it doesn't masquerade or pretend, so again, betray the trust of those who are consuming it or seeking to consume it. So as long as it doesn't masquerade or pretend to be something that it isn't. So as long as an AI written book says it's an AI written book, then we will stock them. This sounds very determined. We are going to do this. Then, of course, thousands of calls to boycott. The bookseller had flooded social media by a couple of days later. So, of course, CEOs are going to CEO, and they backtrack and, I guess, clarifies his statement in an email where he says that they don't sell AI books as far as he's aware. That's a big, I can't write, that's a big hedge. I promise that says hedge. Barnes & Noble demands that publishers label any book that are AI generated. So we got our AI label. So same thing with Spotify where you have your verified badge. Here we have Barnes & Noble demanding that an AI badge is added to anything that is AI generated. Again, it comes down to trust. Do we trust the publishers to actually do that? I don't know if I do. The chain takes active measures to exclude all AI generated books. Well, how? If we can't tell what's AI generated or not, there are no tools that can tell us that. The plagiarism tools for ChatGPT or whatever aren't very good in general because AI is not deterministic. It's going to return what it thinks is the next best word or character. So there's no real way to be able to test if something is AI generated or not. So I don't know what active measures could be done by Barnes & Noble to stop bad actors from submitting AI generated books. But he stated that they will sell AI generated books if there is clear demand, and not ban reputable books published by reputable publishers, even if AI generated. Don't know what reputable books with AI generation means, but it is what it is. CEO is going to CEO. Should these be published, labeled, and there be clear evidence of customer demand? So he hedges, as I mentioned, and then calls it down to supply versus demand. As demand goes up, supply, that's the wrong way. Supply, I know I took economics a long time ago. Supply and demand, right here is the sweet spot of where you have enough supply to meet the demand. I have a feeling that the supply and demand curve, we want a big old supply of AI generation, and then here's the demand curve. It's right about there, that people are actually looking for AI generated stuff. He also said that the retailer thinks it's very unlikely that there will be customer demand for AI generated books or that reputable publishers will publish them. I hope so. I don't actually know. Self-publishing is pretty big right now. That's why Amazon had to limit how many books per day somebody could upload. But who's to say that soon writers might be able to get AI-generated books past editors? We'll have to see, but we will hope that reputable publishers and reputable writers won't do that without clearly labeling that something is AI-generated. He goes on, he says, the argument is nuanced. I do agree with that. And perhaps over-nuanced, but there are important principles that have to be balanced, and I believe we do so as sensibly and thoughtfully as is possible. Book banning is a clear and present danger, I agree, so we are very careful with demands to ban any books while also remaining vigilant not to sell any AI-generated books that masquerade to be by real authors. It is a thin line, I have to give him that, between just outright banning books that we think are AI and then accidentally banning books that might be from real authors. So we want to be careful in that as well. Now, what about record labels? We've talked about them quite a bit. They've been a little bit more aggressive, a little bit less on the strict side and more on like the actual aggressive side, but except for Universal apparently. So Universal is signing deals left and right. But I see here in it's a law blog that Silverman Sound, excuse me, major labels have gone to war. Here it says RIAA chairman says unlicensed services like Suno and Udio that claim it's fair to copy an artist's life work and exploit it for their own profit without consent or pay set back the promise of genuinely innovative AI for us all. I think that's been the most sensible take that I've read all night, because there is a lot of good and benefit to what we get from AI. Creating a song with a prompt is probably not the best use of the compute that we get for our AI services. So this takes it from like a hobby to more of like a law-breaking situation, where now we're taking somebody else's life work, putting it through an algorithm, and spitting out something else as a plagiarized work and calling it our own, without paying the artist for their work to be put in the first place. Then this goes on to say all three major labels have filed lawsuits and simultaneously pivoted to licensing deals with AI companies willing to play by the rules. The message is clear: work with us or face legal oblivion. Legal oblivion. So I think there has been some deals with Suno and with Universal Music Group. I'm not sure about Udio. I actually hadn't heard of that before I started actually doing research here. But what we see is that these platforms either need to get on board with these like traditional institutions or just face their lawyers. Like imagine a startup versus the lawyers of an institution that's been around for 100 years. Doesn't sound like a good time. Regardless, we've seen now Universal go to Spotify to allow for AI-generated works. I think that's just an interesting wrinkle here. In April 2024, over 200 prominent artists signed an open letter specifically targeting AI music generators. That's our Suno and Udio, whatever. The signatories include Billie Eilish, Nicki Minaj, Stevie Wonder, Katy Perry, and the estates of Bob Marley and Frank Sinatra. So I like this statement here. When Billie Eilish and Frank Sinatra's estate agree on something, it's probably worth paying attention to. I can agree with that. The letter warned against what they called the assault on human creativity. So again, I'll circle human because I do believe that human is the center of this entire conversation. The incoming deluge of AI-generated noise. These aren't fringe voices. They are the artists who shape pop culture and whose work you've likely enjoyed for years. Like, these are all names that I think most people know, at least in the United States. But Universal Music Group went the other way. If you can't beat it, well, actually, I guess all record labels are probably heading this way. If you can't beat it, license it. But no one can seem to decide on how or where to draw the line. Do we fight it with lawsuits? Or do we settle out of court? Do we license it with consent and compensation? Each platform is betting their reputation on generative AI, but for what? Like they get short-term profits. Sure, that's really important. Like they got to make money, but creators get burnt and lose trust and find other ways to monetize or distribute their art. Consumers get burnt and lose trust and find other ways to support their favorite artists. Have these companies considered what happens when humans stop contributing to their catalog? I believe that platforms are crossing the line from extending human capability, that is AI being a tool, to attempting to replace it. And they're betting their future on a model that eats their own foundation. So, I guess we'll see what the we'll see what happens as the lawsuits come to a close. But what we're seeing is that AI companies, or no, not even AI companies, the companies where artists go to try and publish their work and make a living from their art are being betrayed by that very platform. With Spotify, Spotify comes in and says, we want all of your work to come in and train, essentially, our AI to make covers of your work. You'll be compensated, trust us. Universal Music Group is in on it. They agree, they're with it. But at the end of the day, you're flooding the algorithm. No, you're flooding the pool of streams with all of this AI generated stuff that other people are going to listen to because they don't know it's AI generated necessarily. And that's one stream, fraction of a penny, that doesn't go to the actual artist who wrote the song or to another individual artist who didn't. And let's actually think about the indie artist here for a little bit, because they don't have Universal Music Group, or they don't have a large record label protecting their works this way. So who's stopping them? Like, who's protecting them in this instance as well? So all of that is just, it's just baffling to me. But like stock photos, like eventually photographers are going to stop contributing when they see that their work is no longer being recognized or purchased, and rather AI generated stuff that kind of looks like their stuff is being purchased instead. Or if somebody comes in and says, I would purchase that, but let me give it to the AI and generate something a little bit more closely to what I'm actually doing. And then of course in art, in visual art, where it's becoming very clear that no one can tell what's real and what's not. What's like, people are going to be a little bit more hesitant, a little bit less trusting when they go and purchase art for their home, because they don't want to hang AI generated art in a place that they live. So ultimately, all of this is to say, art has an AI problem. And I don't think that what we have right now with the institutions are, like, I don't think they're going to solve it. And our keen eyes to see what is AI generated and what's not is not going to help us either. So what can we do? I don't really have an answer for that, unfortunately. And that just, it's a very, I don't want to end it quite like that. The best we can do, the most we can do, as long, like, how I think about it is that we have responsibilities as humans to make sure other humans are taken care of. And that may mean meeting the artist, asking them questions about their work, reacting to their work, and relatively or overall just enjoying the works that they have presented to the world. This video is part of it. This is part of the art that I can put out there. I know how to work a video camera, some audio, and some video. Other artists put stuff out on Instagram, sell prints. Other artists sell songs. Others photography. There are so many ways that we can support each other as artists without feeding a machine that is just consuming at all costs in order to turn a short-term profit and burn out the creators and the consumers for that matter. Oh, all right. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear what you think. Leave your opinion down in the comments. I'll be sure to read as many as I can. No, I don't want to say that. I will, though, whoever watches this back live. But yes, thank you for watching. I hope to put out more content like this soon, but in the meantime, you can check out, I have a web developer newsletter that goes over web development news. That's called Next in Dev. There's a link to that in the description. I've got a course out if you want to learn how to develop using a very specific CMS called Payload. Otherwise, you can just follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it is, and I look forward to seeing you there. But for now, that's all I've got for this video. I'll see you in the next one. I forgot to add